of a really complex idea if you can't explain that idea. So if I was deciding my answer for this one, what I would do is I would think, why do you think this is happening? And I would try and think of an idea right now for this one. That's not the one that we really need to worry about. For this one, is it a positive or negative development? This is the one that we really need to decide our answer on pretty quickly. Because if you go into the essay thinking, oh, I don't know if it's positive or negative, or, some of it's positive, some of it, you're going to get very confused pretty quickly. For this, is it a positive or negative development? Just pick one. Just pick one. This is positive or this is negative. If you do that, you're making your life so much easier and so much simpler. So pick one side and go with it. And just pick the side that you would find easiest to write about. That's all you have to do. So for me, for example, I think this is positive and I have a really good idea about why I think this is positive and I'm able to support that idea, I would go with that one. Okay, so now we've analyzed the question and we've decided our idea. Now we need to think of ideas. You've already primed your brain to think of ideas in a logical way that will lead to clear ideas. So by deciding what you think about these things, by deciding your answer, you've already started on the path to thinking about a clear idea. However, many of you mess up when you get to this stage because you've been taught a technique for thinking of ideas that is completely wrong and is the worst thing that you could ever do. This area is taught incorrectly by 95% of IELTS teachers. Again, I'm not saying I'm the best IELTS teacher in the world, but when I see something in a textbook, I don't take that thing and just automatically teach it to my students. If I see something in a textbook or in a book or a blog or anywhere, I think about it and think, is this actually effective? Is this actually a good way to teach students? And the best example of that is brainstorming. Brainstorming is the worst thing that you could do. Why do most teachers teach brainstorming? Because they just look at a textbook or they just Google how to think of ideas and 95% of the stuff out there just says brainstorming. Why is brainstorming so bad? Complete waste of time. Brainstorming, you write the thing in the middle of the page and then you draw a bubble around it and then you draw arrows, and you don't have time to do that. You don't have time to think of 16 different ideas. And even if you do think of all of these different ideas, most of them are not specific. They don't answer the question. They're not specific. They're not relevant. So what happens at the end of a brainstorm session is you've got a bunch of ideas that are not specific to the question, not relevant to the question. You've just wasted a huge amount of time, and then you have to waste even more time going through all of these ideas. Stop it. Stop doing brainstorming. It's really, really bad idea. Instead, we should just keep it simple. The most obvious ideas are normally the best ones. The simplest, most straightforward ideas are the easiest to understand and the easiest to write about. There are no extra marks for amazing ideas. Many of you think that there are, 2 or 3 ideas for each question that get you a band 9 or a band 8. It doesn't work like that. It's not like the examiner has a list of ideas, and if they follow those ideas, they'll automatically get a high score. It doesn't work like that. It works by, are your ideas relevant to the question? Do they answer the question? And how well do you develop and use those ideas? So how can we think of simple, straightforward ideas that we can use in our essay? The answer is the direct method. Ask yourself direct, specific questions about the question being asked. This will generate specific, relevant ideas in a very short amount of time. The first ideas you think of are normally the best. So many of you are very intelligent people, like doctors, engineers, lawyers, and throughout your life, throughout your studies, you have had to think of complex, complicated ideas your whole life. So when you do the IELTS test, you tend to do the same thing. Other people have been taught by teachers that, complex, high-level ideas are a good idea. Many of you just assume that you would get more marks if you think of more complicated ideas. The opposite is true. So what is a good idea? A good idea is easy to understand, it's relevant to the question, answers the specific question, and is easy to explain. It's easy for you to take that idea, bring it into your main body paragraphs, and develop that idea. So many of you are probably thinking, what is this direct method? How do we use it? So let's look at a question. Nowadays, more tasks at home and work are being performed by robots. So the direct method is where you take the question and you ask yourself a direct question to develop an idea. So why do you think this is happening? How would you think of an idea for this? In the most obvious way is you would just think, why is this happening? You would ask yourself that question. So instead of, drawing bubbles and arrows and all of these different mind maps and all of these different things, it's not hard when you just ask yourself the question. For this one, is it a positive or negative development? So let's say we decide that it's positive. How would you use the direct method? You'd very simply say, why is this positive? And instantaneously, your brain should be able to help you think of an idea. If it doesn't, wait, think about it a little bit more. This really does work. And when students start using this, like, why did I waste so much time brainstorming? And why did I do that for so long? This is just one example, and you can apply this, keep it simple mentalities, keep it simple methodology to pretty much everything on the IELTS test. And, reading, listening, speaking, writing. When you stop overcomplicating everything, then everything becomes much, much, much easier. I keep saying that IELTS is an easy test, overcomplicated by students. And that's really, really true. So let's just recap what we've done so far. You understand the question first, you've decided how you're going to answer it, and you've thought of relevant main ideas. So, as mentioned before, this is just the thinking stage, all right? So it's taken, 30 minutes to get to explain all of this, but you should be doing this in the real test in 1 or 2 minutes. This should be really, really easy for you to do once you practice doing it. You can't just take all this information and automatically start doing it. It's like any skill, you have to practice it, but once you practice doing it in this way, it becomes automatic. Just like riding a bike or tying your shoelaces, it was difficult in the beginning. You had to think about it a lot, but then it becomes automatic. So let me do a quick demo of those 3 stages with this question. So nowadays, more tasks at home and work are being performed by robots. So I would look at this, I would understand it. The words that I've highlighted in red here are the specific keywords. Okay, I know what this is about. Then I'd look at the first question. And what I would do with the first question is understand what it's asking me. I would think about it, I would decide it, and then I would ask myself a direct question, and I would think of an idea. And my idea is advancements in technology. Second question, is it a positive or negative development? I decide, okay, it's positive. Why is it positive? Because it reduces amount of work we have to do. So I did that in 1 minute. In the real test, that would take me 30 seconds to do that. You won't be able to do it in 30 seconds, but many of my students can do that consistently in less than a minute, in less than 2 minutes. Some of them take a bit longer, but I hope that you can see how effective that would be. Imagine opening your paper on exam day and being able to do that in 1 minute, and then you can start your planning. So now let's look at what is an introduction. Okay, so an introduction tells the reader what to expect. All right, always think of the reader. So an introduction is just helping the reader understand what the essay or what the whatever you're writing, that could be, a journal or a dissertation or anything like that. The introduction just helps the reader understand what you're going to write about. And it helps the reader follow the rest of your essay. Again, always think of the reader. Many of you, when you're doing the IELTS test, you're not thinking of the reader at all. You're thinking, how many fancy words can I put in here? How many fancy grammar structures can I put in here? Without really thinking, am I clearly communicating with the reader? Because the main reason why you write anything is to communicate. You communicate with the person reading. And it also helps you get your thoughts in order. So think of it as a mini plan that will help you write a better essay. So people who write very, very clear introductions normally write very, very clear main body paragraphs and conclusions. If I see an introduction, I can pretty much predict what the rest of the essay is going to look like.